online Bible school with Grace Institute, and we are sharing this with our other discipleship group, PowerPoint Motivational Word, PowerPoint Discipleship, and Favor Media. I want to welcome you to our Friday morning edition as we close out this week of week 3 in dealing with the power of the blessing. And again, subtitling all this week, Activating the Blessing. And so, in closing out this week and activating the blessing, we're going to talk about next week this steps of faith along with that. Steps of faith in activating the blessing, because see, just activating, I'm showing you, and at least also getting ready to show you some of the things, the steps of faith that has to be made when you're moving forward in the plan with God. There are some things in our lives that we may have brought along that may have been indirectly incorporated, things that we may have delayed, that was not part of the plan. But God, because of our heart, we come to a place and we recognize, Father, I missed it. Forgive me. And what happened is that what we do, we show ourselves up to be open, whereby God now has our heart. He can correct the mistake. He could correct or make the adjustments that's needed to move out of your life, whatever that is, maybe in the flesh, something that may be a weight, whatever that is that will hinder you and I from moving forward continuously in the will of God. And that's what part of what steps of faith is. Because sometimes when you look at what God called you to, and then look at how you're progressing along the way, then we need to take time and see, okay, why am I not moving forward? Well, that's the time that, as like Romans 12:1 talks about, we making ourselves a living sacrifice. And when you do that, that's part of your spiritual worship, that's, to check your heart, to make sure that there's nothing interference, nothing causing any type of delays in what God has placed within you. Having said that, let's go to make our faith confession. Let's say it out loud once again. For the Lord is good, and his mercy endures forever, whom the Lord has redeemed from the hand of the enemy. So again, I want to say good morning to you. Thank you for joining me on your online Bible school. We stopped off here in Genesis 17. We got past the circumcision that was made as a sign of the covenant that God made with Abraham. We discovered that the circumcision was not the covenant. The circumcision was a sign to show that covenant was already made. So when a person is circumcised, a male species is circumcised, it is a reminder of the covenant that God made with Abraham. And that covenant is that Abraham believed God, Genesis 15:6. He believed God, and it was counted to him for righteousness. And so later on, the seal came about as an outward indication that we have a covenant of right standing with God, because he believed what God said. Well, today, that circumcision is not of the foreskin. The circumcision now is of the heart. As we talked about yesterday, your heart makes up, comprised of your soul and your spirit. Now, I believe that indecision was made when you heard the gospel, and that your soul opened up to hear the gospel of Jesus Christ, and through your belief and the confession of your mouth, your spirit was totally eradicated. Now, the soul has been purged from dead works because of the the belief, the opening of your mouth, and the understanding of what you heard that came to pass in your life. Now, but the thing about the soul, even though it's purged from its dead work, it can always revert back. That's part of you and I that have not been totally converted. We do have a glorified soul and a glorified body that awaits us when you leave the earth. But as long as you're on the earth, it's like your physical body. You got to bathe it. You got to wash your head. You got to wash your beard. If you like me, you got to beard. You got to wash it. You got to cleanse it all the time. What I did today is not going to be sufficient for tomorrow. So it's like an everyday cleansing of this physical flesh to do what? So that you can stay, acceptable, adaptable in society. Well, your soul is like your physical body. Your soul has to have a daily purging of unrighteous thoughts, unrighteous ways. And what are you doing? You are downloading from your born again spirit the life of Christ there, and you begin to, as one in your soul and in your body, in your spirit, you're walking as one, and the body or the physical surrounding will be the manifestation of it. Amen. I know that was a lot to be said there, but I'm just saying to you, the soul has to always come in alignment because it's the part of us that has all ideologies, thoughts, worldview of how we were raised, communities we came up in, things that we grew up hearing. And now that you are born again, you're in the kingdom of God, you're finding out that those worldviews that you had doesn't coincide with the life of Christ that's in you. So therefore, there are things that we have to uproot. Their thoughts, feelings, or their emotion. There are things that we made a stand against that we got to get rid of if we're going to move forward. And I'm saying this because this is what happened even with Abraham and Sarah. Even though Ishmael is born, he's about 13, 14 years of age now. And God has spoken to Abraham and told him in Genesis 17:15, and God said to Abraham, as for Sarah, thy wife, thou shalt not call her Sarah, but Sarah. And I will bless her and give her, watch this, and give thee a son also of her. Now, Abraham, he laughed and fell on his face and said, should a child be born to 100 years? It wasn't that he was just in doubt. It was just that my God, should a man 100 years old bring forth a son? God, what is God doing? He is calling Abraham back in the remembrance of what they covenant with, what the covenant was about. And when you look here at verse 17, they say, Abraham fell on his face and laughed and said, in his heart, shall a child be born to him that's 100 years old? Why? This never happened. And what are we saying? This is the God that we serve. He's never calling you to something that you can. He's always calling you to something that you can't, that you're going to need his assistance. And this is what we're going to, go into next week in talking about. There are steps of faith in our walk, in our victory, in the understanding that we have of the truth. Yes, in my spirit, I have everything that I need. But in the soul, this part of me, it has to be relearned. I have to be taught what is in my spirit. I have to learn to walk in unity of what is already in my spirit. Because your soul will fight you through your mind, your will, and your emotion. It'll fight you. But now notice this. And so he said, Abraham fell on his face, and he said, should a child that 100 years old, shall a child, and shall Sarah that is 99 years old bear? Well, Sarah is 90. He's 100. And Abraham said to God, oh, that Ishmael might live before thee. Because that was the plan they put in motion. But God already told him he should come from your own bowels. And so here, God is bringing him back to the place, I haven't changed my mind. Now look at the next verse, because this is very important. And he said, and God said, Sarah, thy wife, shall bear thee a son indeed, and thou shalt call his name Isaac. See, it's good letting you know it's going to be a male seed. You're going to call him Isaac, and I will establish my covenant with him for an everlasting covenant, and with his seed after him. So Ishmael was never a part of the thing, but God blessed him, and God sent him on the way. But look at verse 20. And as for Ishmael, I have heard thee. Behold, I have blessed him, and will make him fruitful, and will multiply him exceedingly. 12 princes shall he beget, and I will make him a great nation. Because of Abraham. Can you see it? Even though it was never a part of the plan, but because Abraham and Sarah went out to help God on his own. How often have we done that? How often have I done it? You know, we know it's God, but instead of getting the full instruction, the direction, the way to go about it, we just take out. Well, I've done that. Take out and run with it. And then come to find out that now I need the Lord to help me to do what? To make this right, so I can continue to move on, and that he can continue to reveal to me his original intent. And this is what God did here. He's moving Abraham and Sarah along. He's taking care the Ishmael that they had in their flesh, that they made in the flesh, and he's sending them away. Why? Because if you don't get rid of the thing that's in the flesh, it will be a hindrance. You won't think it would be. Abraham would have never thought that Ishmael would have been a hindrance. Abraham spent a lot of time with this young boy, and now he has to send him away. The same woman that told him to go into Hagar, now the same woman is saying, send them away from the child that will be the heir. So there won't be no confusion. And this is why you have that. And notice this. And so verse 21, he said, but my covenant will I establish with Isaac. You see that? God is not ruthless. God is not, it's not that God is not compassionate. This was God's original intent from the beginning. And again, how often we put things in place trying to help the will of God along, the ways of God along, and then come to discover it's not what God wants of us. And this is why it's so important that, look, I don't care who we are. We all have made mistakes. We all have gone beyond ways that we should have. There are times we stepped so far back that it was just as worse as moving forward. The best way is to spend time in prayer, in the word, waiting on God. When I say waiting on God, you do the things you know to do, but then before you make this, this big step of faith that's going to change everything, whether it be financial, whether it be marital, whatever it is that you're doing, you need to make sure that I got clear direction from the Lord. And so here, God is giving clear direction to Abraham. He's letting him know, But my covenant I will establish with Isaac, which Sarah shall bear unto thee at the set time. See, the set time is that you have come to yourself. And notice this, Sarah is going to have her say so coming into the 18th chapter. And what I'm saying to you is that these things didn't happen overnight. These are real life lessons that all of us can learn from. And so here, God is saying, Sarah shall bear thee at the set time. She's barren. This is why she said, go into my handmaid. Why would God go with someone? Could it be all along this was God's way if they would have waited? Now we can see this and understand this because we got a Bible and it's so many thousands of years prior to it. Afterwards, I mean. And so we can see it, but let it be a lesson. I know I applied to my own life of looking at, wow, now what is my excuse? I have a Bible. I can look at this. But no matter, sometimes the flesh at times want what it wants. And sometimes it can cost us. And I'm just learning through the grace of God, the mercy of God, not to do that, not to live life like that, but to pull back and check your heart and just give God complete control in your decision making, in the direction that you're going to go, and just follow the peace. And when you follow the peace, I believe you're going to be okay. Matter of fact, I know you'll be okay. And so notice this. So he told at the set time next year, Sarah was going to bring forth a son. That set time is this. It's like this was what God had planned all along. But they interfere. That was an interruption on their behalf. But God took care of it. And God said, now you got to move this on. Watch this. And he left talking with him. And God went up from Abraham. Isn't that amazing? And Abraham took Ishmael, his son, and all that were born of his house, and all that were brought with his money, every male among the men of Abraham's house, and circumcised the flesh of their foreskin in the selfsame day, as God had said unto him. And Abraham was 99 years old when he was circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin. And Ishmael, his son, was 13 years old when he was circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin. So see, he's been with him 13 years. But God never changed his mind. Abraham now have to grow up and come to the plate of walking in the will of God or stay in the submissive will of God. Verse 27. And all the men of the house born in the house and brought money of the stranger that was circumcised with him. Notice this now. In the 18th chapter, and the Lord appeared unto him in the plain of Mirror. And he sat in the tent door in the heat of the day and lifted up his eyes and looked, and lo, 3 men stood by him. And when he saw them, he ran to meet them from the tent door and bowed himself toward the ground and said, My Lord, if I now have found favor in thy sight, pass not away, I pray thee, from thy servant. And let a little water, I pray you, fetch and wash your feet and rest yourself under the tree. And I will fetch a morsel of bread, comfort your heart. After that ye shall pass on. For therefore are ye come to your servant? And they said, So do, thou hast said. And Abraham hastened to the tent unto Sarah and said, Make ready quickly 3 measure of fine flour, keen it, and make cakes upon the heap. And Abraham ran unto the herb and fetched a calf tender and good and gave it to the young man and said, Haste to dress it. That's a lot of work that's taking place here. And he took the butter, the milk, the calf, which he had, and dressed and set it before them. And he stood by them under the tree and did eat. And they said unto him, watch this, Where is Sarah thy wife? He said, Behold, in the tent. And remember what he said. This is at the set time of next year, of this time next year, she will bring forth a child. So we know it takes 9 months for this to take place. So it had to be at the end of 1 year going into the next. And he said, I will certainly return unto thee according to the time of life. Look, he's confirming it. And lo, Sarah thy wife shall have a son, and Sarah heard it in the tent door which was behind him. Now, they hadn't even come together yet. See, this is what God is doing. He's calling those things that be not as though they were until they are. Are you understanding what I'm saying here? He has already put in motion. He's prepping their heart to follow him, to obey him. Okay? Doing this, by this time, Abraham know God now. And notice what Sarah did in verse 11. Now, Abraham and Sarah were old. Now, when the Bible calls you old, you're old. He said, and they were well stricken in age, and it ceased to be with Sarah after the manner of women. Now, I want to just take a point. We may have to stop right here. Think about this for a moment. You and I could be well stricken in age to bring forth the plan that we believe that God should have asked of us 20, 30 years ago. But there's a reason. Because God created us, God knows how to touch our body, our mind, our youth to do what? It may be for 2 years, but God can touch your mind, touch your body in a way that whereas it may appear as you and I at an age where it seemed like, God can't use me, or I'm too old, let this be for the younger generation. You don't understand. What God has for you, God has for you. And he's not going to change his mind unless you make a decision that you're just not going to walk in it. Now, having said that, I'm just saying, look at your scenario. You may be too old for certain things that you think of. In my mind, it crossed my mind. But when I read these scriptures and I become energized and I become ready to do what? To take on whatever that is God has called me to, regardless of what my age is. If Caleb could take a mountain, take the giants at 85 years of age, just as when he was 40 years old or 45 at that time, and he still has the same energy. Why? Because God makes the difference. It's not just in us physically. It's God, the Spirit of God, that will energize us to do what he called us to. Well, look, I want to take a few minutes and ask those of you that are listening to us, those of you that may be listening to us, to love to have your support. I'd love to have you to come along and partner with us as I'm in the early stage of putting together uh, um, an online Bible school, whereas you will have a PDF file of notes that will come to you, lessons outlined, and we will put some cost to these things. And at the end of these lessons that we're going to put together and whatnot, there will be a certificate that we will give to you. It may be one that we'll give to you online rather than you just coming in person, but you will receive these certificates of completion of these different lessons that we're going to be bringing forth to you. So as you support us financially, you're helping me and the people who will be with me to put these things together to do what? So that we can put this material out here and I can be more consistent at a regular time of putting these lessons out here for you so that whether we do it like this in a class online or whether we do it like this through a Zoom, okay? And so I got several ways that I want to get with you and talk with you about these things. And so I need your help, your support. And we put it right there on the screen. You can go to www.thefavorchurch uh, through Tightly, or you can give through texting, which is a 504 number 513-6615, or you can give Cash App The Favorite Church. And so we're getting ready to put material together through a PDF file, through even whole classes later on in person, and give you the materials you need, and then again give you a certificate of completion at the end of these lessons. And we'll keep doing this and move forward. And as you help me to get this done, then I can become more and more involved because it's going to take a lot of diligence. It's going to take a lot of work to stay focused once I start doing this. And so I appreciate if that's you, to become a partner with us on a consistent basis or whatnot. It will help me to do what God has put in my heart. We love you. We thank God for you. And as we always say, until the next time, may God's best and his favor be with you. Again, the website is up there that you can give. Love to have your financial support, and we thank you so much. Look forward to seeing you this Sunday, either online or in person at the Favorite Church. Love you. Have a great day. Bye-bye, everyone.